Welcome back to the... Oh, shit. Nearly broke the table there. Sorry, let's do that again. Welcome back to the second episode of podcast / YouTube channel. We still haven't worked out the name properly yet as we're recording this, but welcome back nonetheless. As you can see, we're dressed the same and sitting in the same place because we haven't really moved, but this is out a week after the first one. Hope you have listened to the first one. If you haven't, I'm sure there'll be a link somewhere, maybe in the description or below, to go and listen to the first one or to watch the first one. That was all about... What was it about? I can't remember. So professional. Anyways, this week is all things drinking on the job. As you can see, we both drink. He's got his old-fashioned there. How was it, by the way? The last one?
Actually, really good, man.
Good,
so
yeah.
we're still at Kanishka, and
Kanishka,
the cocktails are amazing. So this is the second drink I've had because Shraii, that's just how he rolls. This is an old-fashioned cocktail. What are you drinking? The same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really... As wild as I'd be, I'd have a pink gin. That's about it.
Do you drink anything else apart from gin?
That's a funny story, actually. So I used to drink... The first drink I ever drank in a nightclub, which was a club called Aura in Mayfair. Do you remember Aura?
Yes.
First one I ever drank was a JD, Coke, as usual, because I'm a brown person. And then when I got a bit older, I had vodka lemonades. Mainly because, which we're going to talk about, I didn't want people to know I was drinking at weddings. So I went for a see-through, colourless drink. So vodka lemonade. And I had a gig in Hungary, Budapest. And it was a Friday, Saturday gig. And on the Sunday on the way home, I just sat there and I was like, how much Sprite have I had over the last 2-3 days? And I worked out like 9 litres of Sprite, and I was like, that needs to change. Luckily I was only 21 or something at the time. So I tried vodka, soda, vodka tonic. I think they're sweeping the stairs next to me. Vodka tonic, I didn't like any of that. So I changed to gin and tonic, and I never looked back.
Interesting, man, because I can tell you about my experiences drinking, which is the first time I remember drinking in the nightclub was Destiny, which was in Watford. And the drinks that we used to drink them days were like kind of Smirnoff Ice or kind of pre-drinking, etc. beforehand. Smirnoff Ice was really popular then, like how popular it is now, I'm not too sure. Yeah, literally. And as I kind of progressed, I kind of was never into beers, to be honest with you, even till now.
Same.
I'm not really a beer drinker.
I had 2 beers in my life.
Really?
One was with you.
Yeah, I mean, I try to drink beer when I'm not trying to drink. That's the kind of drink I would say, if I'm not really here drinking, it will be a beer.
Before you continue with your story, tell you about that beer story. So you and I did a gig, is your gig actually. I think I was only 19 or something. And you did a gig, Greek restaurant, rooftop.
Okay, Broadway Brunch.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
You knew the owner very well.
Broadway Brunch.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. And he gave us 2 beers. And we both, I think they were Budweisers, I can't remember. We both took them, and we both looked at each other and were like, see how this goes. We just had the beer.
You know what? I actually remember that party. I don't remember the beer aspect of things, but it's saying most of my friends, they tend to drink beers, right?
Yeah,
I think from my progression from Smirnoff Ice, they kind of went straight into vodka.
Smirnoff
I know. I went to vodka, and when I was a student, vodka Red Bull was very popular.
Vodka was,
So all of the vodka parties, then it kind of went to vodka cranberry. Then from vodka cranberry, I went to vodka soda. And vodka soda and fresh lime, and it must be fresh squeezed lime, is the one.
That's what Sean's having
got me
right
questioning.
now,
Old fashioned is only again when I'm in a restaurant or kind of a place where they kind of do really good cocktails. Then I would have a couple of cocktails. But my go-to drink is vodka soda all day long.
Okay, so to be fair, when I'm with a missus or something, and I order a gin and tonic, they always put it in front of her because it comes in this it's quite a feminine sort of glass in it, really, and they always put it next to the girl, and I'm just like, actually, that's
mine.
The beer's for her. I'm joking, not the beer, but
Why does she drink beers?
No, I was only messing. But
I know a lot of girls that drink beers though.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I mean, I find it a bit strange. I think it's quite cool, to be fair, but I just can't do beers, man.
The only beer that I really like, for me, is Guinness.
That's the strong one, isn't it? Like the Irish one.
Yeah, Irish.
Yeah. Actually, I did a destination wedding to Ireland. I don't know if you remember. I think it was in Dublin, actually. And this is not stereotyping Irish people at all, by the way. It was a mixed wedding. So half the family were Irish, and half were Indian from London. And so I got there at like 8 in the morning or something. I flew there. The ceremony was at 11, and they started drinking Guinness at 11. And let's just say my flight was at like 4 in the morning. So the reception was in the evening. They're still drinking Guinness from 11 a.m. basically to about 2 a.m. Just Guinness. The whole time just Guinness. They must have gone through at least 25 pints each of Guinness. 100%. I actually played 2 hours extra because they kept giving me drinks. And they were like, will you just play on?
You know what?
We touched on in the last podcast, right? They kept saying, and because they kept feeding me drink, the bride and groom were like, here, drink. And I was like, oh, I've got nowhere to go tomorrow. I'm just flying home. And then I was like, cool. I had done another 2 hours. And I left there. And it was in a hotel. So I went and got my suitcase that I packed before. And I went straight to the airport.
You see, destination wedding is the only time really you can go through. You see what I was mentioning in the last podcast about the last song, etc., and one more song. You don't get that same kind of issue when it's a destination wedding because, like you said, when you know you haven't got nothing to do the next day,
doesn't matter.
You know you're flying back and you've got a late night flight, and the guests are having fun. It's 1 o'clock and you've been told you're contracted until 1, but you know you're welcome to play for longer. It's cool.
But I think that's the thing.
The vibe.
After,
you can do that.
say you're booked till 1, if you then get smashed between 1 and 3, that's no one's business. That's up to you. And if you're playing music for them, you're doing them a favor. So that's up to you.
That's the thing. It's a vibe, right? It's the same. I remember playing when I was in Bali. I'd done this wedding, and the wedding was meant to finish at 1, and it went on until 6 in the morning.
Jeez.
And not once did somebody from the venue or anybody complain. Everyone was kind of happy. They were like, "Yeah, cool, carry on playing."
Going, yeah.
But that, on the back end of that is where you really get the credibility, or you get the referrals, you get the bookings.
The next day, everyone will be like, yo, who was that DJ? Or, oh, Ruggs, that was sick. Or, can we book you? Or whatever, That's what happens the next day at breakfast. The next day, everyone's like, who was DJing last night?
Yeah, that's what you mentioned even last time. When you get the opportunity to actually meet the bride and groom a few more times or become friends, then you end up actually becoming friends with a lot of their friends.
Yeah.
And naturally, every bride and groom's wedding that we do, then they have
And
friends.
we're not becoming friends with them because we want leads. It's because we're actually... I like them.
You have a good time.
We have a good time. Yeah.
And that's the beauty about music, man. You can put everyone
birthday parties and stuff.
You can unite everyone within that frame and like.
Tell you what, actually, I did what was a good idea one night. So obviously, in a destination when you want to differentiate all the nights, you don't want to have the same music for this, 3-4 nights in a row. But what they did one night was they kept it very Bollywood. But towards the end, everyone got drunk and they sort of said, "Let's do a karaoke." So I had people singing Spice Girls, Michael Jackson, all this kind of stuff. And that was, in my opinion, the best night of the whole thing. Like, it was so fun. It was so much fun. Maybe it's because it was the first night. I don't know. But that was a good element to add. Anyways, we're going off on a tangent. Drinking. So let's say you have a wedding in a fancy hotel, central London. Like a Mayfair hotel, whatever, and you are not driving the van, or you're not doing production, you're just DJing. What's your policy?
It kind of varies, to be honest with you. What I've noticed is it kind of depends on the bride and groom firstly, on their vibe. Now, I'll be honest, as a DJ, since I started DJing, which goes back quite some time.
45 years or something?
Yeah, give or take, yeah, that's right. When I started DJing, drinking as a DJ was always it's always been accepted. I've never really, or very rarely had someone come and say, oh, you're a DJ, you shouldn't drink, or, it's always been the opposite. It's always been, oh, you're a DJ, would you like a drink? Oh, you're the DJ here. When I used to play in nightclubs, every club I'd play in, I'd be asking for a bottle.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's what you do now, right? So it's the same basis, but when it comes to a wedding, I would never tell the bride and groom, oh, actually, what my rider is for a nightclub is a bottle with XYZ is what I would want for the wedding. If anything, I just want to be fed at some point.
Maybe. Do you know what? It sounds weird. Actually, food is. We should talk about that as well. But what's weird is, so when a bride and groom they're dealing with the production themselves, or we're doing a big production, and I don't need to do any setup myself, then they always ask my rider, so like, oh, what equipment do you actually physically need to DJ on? Particularly these high-end Mayfair and Park Lane hotels, whatever. They ask for my rider. And my rider is, obviously, I've got a technical rider and I've got a personal rider on. It's on one page. It's a one-pager. So I send that to them. And they say, it says bottle of gin, mixed fruit platter, this, that. And I'm like, yeah, don't worry about that. Just do that. But that, in a way, that means that they know I drink, and it means that I expect a couple drinks.
But how many DJs do you know that don't drink?
Well, this is the thing.
I know there is many, and I've done many parties without no alcohol there, and it's not to say I was saying every party needs alcohol, every DJ needs to be drunk, or everyone needs to be drinking.
Yeah.
But I can tell you from my experience, sometimes it kind of helps kind of get into the flow of things.
Yeah.
In many occasions, I can DJ perfectly fine without alcohol, right? Just
yeah.
for the record, I can DJ perfectly fine, but in my mind, I DJ a little bit better if I've had a few drinks, and if I'm at the sorry.
Phone's going. Here we go.
So. Clients are ringing me. It's going to be a
How many
very
meetings
busy
you
year.
missed today? How many bookings you missed today? Because your number's the musical mute's number, isn't it?
At the moment, it's all running from this phone.
See, that's your phone must be mental.
My phone's crazy, but listen,
get another phone.
I know I want to, but I'm a workaholic. I love it. To be honest with you,
If you got your laptop and your phone, you're good.
I've got my laptop with me as well.
There you go. Yeah, you're good.
Comes everywhere.
We should get a sponsorship from Apple. I swear.
I know.
The amount of Apple products.
I actually need a new laptop.
Are you gonna get the new? There's a new MacBook. Are you gonna get MacBook?
I'm gonna definitely get a MacBook because I can't really use something else that's not Mac. I've been so used to using
as a
this.
DJ, I like how everything's synced. So like my watch, my phone, my iPad, my Macs, they're all iCloud synced. There's a lot of stuff around us right now, isn't there?
Indeed.
Coffee machines going on, man. I like it. So yeah, going back to the drinking thing, I think you're right. You know, DJs can go through phases of having water for 1 month and then having alcohol for 1 month, but that doesn't mean to say your DJing performance is going to vary.
No, exactly.
I would say we are better DJs with at least 3 or 4 doubles down us.
I think
100%.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think I think Sean actually experienced it the other day where we were at a wedding, and it wasn't even the bride agreeing, it was like the father of the bride or something, right? And he literally come out of his way from the bar specifically with a drink for me.
Wow.
And what am I gonna do? Am I gonna say no?
You can't say no.
And this is that's the kind of school a lot of the families have been like around me to some capacity. Sort of like everywhere I've ever gone, it's like, how are you? You know, do you want to drink? And that kind of goes from clubs, restaurants, and obviously weddings.
That's another thing, because like obviously, one thing for sure is that as you grow up as a DJ, like when you were growing up, maybe say 5 years ago, all your friends were getting married, so it was difficult for you not to drink at these weddings. And now a lot of my friends are getting married, and it's like, or my friend's sister or my friend's brother's getting married, and I'm just like, yeah, but you not drink.
You would drink more naturally at like a friend's wedding, for example, opposed to it being someone that you don't know as well, right? But I think it's interesting because sometimes no other wedding supplier can kind of probably get away with drinking on the job.
I don't know any
really.
job
Actually, it's true.
On the job. No, I think DJing.
Even bar staff, I've always thought, do bar staff, have they got like a green light to drink on the job?
I think so.
Or not? Or is it kind of, again, oh no, you can't drink? Because I've noticed when I used to work in a lot of the clubs, the bar staff were a lot more fun, a lot more of a vibe, but kind of encouraging for the guests out there to party.
The classic rule is that if a barman or a bar woman makes a mistake or drops a glass, whatever, they all have to have a shot. That was the classic rule. Like that was just a known thing. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but that was just a known thing at bars and clubs. Like if someone makes a mistake or they drop a bottle, and everyone has to have a shot inside the bar. Like all the staff have a shot. I feel like that a lot of them are not allowed to drink now.
Well, a lot of the clubs, I remember, right, depending on who the manager was, some of them are told you're not allowed to drink. Now, one of the clubs I used to work with quite closely, their staff was not allowed to drink on the job at all in the venue.
Wow.
So and prior to that, when I knew them all, they were drinking, and the whole kind of vibe changed when they were told you're not allowed to drink anymore. Because when I used to ask them for drinks, they'll be like, "Oh, you can have a drink, but we have to charge you for it." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine," but they didn't stop me from drinking. I think only once in my career that I can actually recall, one of the suppliers has actually said, "Listen, you're not allowed to drink." So.
This actually happened to me in a very famous club about a month ago in Leicester Square. So I'm DJing. It was a Desi night. It was actually going pretty well, to be fair. And the booth is situated literally So like the bar's here, and the booth is just slightly above it, but touching the bar. Like it's literally like you could lean over and reach a bottle. It's that close. So I said to the guy, "Can I have a gin and tonic?" Obviously, and he was like, "No." I was like, "I'll pay for it. I don't mind. Just can I have one?" He goes, "No." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "You're not allowed alcohol. We're not allowed to give DJs alcohol." That was their. I don't know if that was just for the promoters had put this rule in place, or the club managers have now implemented this rule.
No,
I don't know if it's a thing
what?
on a Friday, or maybe it's a Wednesday, it's a Friday. I don't know.
I can see, like, from a nightclub perspective, like, in many times, because the DJ sometimes, you know, if you're not the regular in-house DJ that plays in, week out, and it's kind of like a one-off gig where you're in a club, the venue are conscious of, you know, my equipment's here, why are they going to let the DJ
don't
come,
get me started on
etc.
club equipment, man.
I know it's already battered, I know that, but when you're at a wedding, it's your own equipment, firstly, so if you drop anything, should you, it's going to drop on your own equipment. Not saying that's
I've
happen,
had so many spillages, laptops, one of my decks broke last month.
and it's usually the guests that drop.
Yeah, and what can you say? Like, you can't be like, yeah, that's £2,500 CDJ. Bank transfer, please. Like,
Yeah, I'll be honest. A lot of my early career, a lot of my equipment got damaged because of spillage.
my laptop, one of my first MacBook Pros got when I used to drink JD back in the day. Had a JD Coke next to my laptop, which was stupid on my behalf. But someone went to spud me, like, give me a high five because I don't know, like the music, whatever. Knocked the glass on my Mac, and the whole Mac was dripping. And so I had to unplug, turn it upside down. There was no music. It was a disaster. But I had to get a new Mac.
Yeah, the same thing happened to me and Scar at Metro. Like, literally.
Was it a guest? Or a
it was a guest,
Yeah.
and they dropped like half of a pint literally on his laptop as they come in the DJ booth requesting a song. And I remember that. And these things, I guess, they do happen, right? That's the reality. There's some.
Is there insurance you can get covered for these things? I don't even know.
I guess there is.
To look into
Like,
it
even, yeah, it's interesting, but sometimes it kind of happens. I now no longer will ever leave a drink near my laptop. One thing I do, if I have my laptop, it's kind of on a stand. If I do have a drink, it's not near it, and anyone that's around me, I try my best to avoid it. Because the other thing that happens at weddings a lot is people put their drinks, full glasses, on speakers.
On the bass bins,
on the stage,
on
the DJ booth, next to the DJ booth, and that just rattles off and falls over, and you can kind of see it.
Because you got bass bins, and then you got a pole, and then you got speakers, right? Which a lot of people, they don't quite understand. They just think that's a stand for the speaker. It's not. It's a bass bin. So I've actually had, it was actually one of the house parties that I done a couple of years ago. I think it was a 50th birthday or something. And it was not a guest. It was the person helping me do the setup. He left his full glass on the bass bin at the back, obviously behind the pole. So like our side, if you like. And obviously the controls are at the back, you know, where the power and it, obviously the vibrations move the glass back. And it tipped over and it broke that bass bin. So we were using one bass bin, which was fine volume-wise, but that bass bin needed repairing, and that's another expense. And do you charge the guy that works with you as well, or say the guy that works with you drives your van, and he scratches it? What would you do?
What do you do? I guess it factors into accidental damage and precaution, like where possible.
Then do you want to go through insurance for a little scratch?
No, I've gone through some insurance in the past with some of the things that are broken, but to be honest with you, I found the whole experience of actually being long. And not necessarily worthwhile on the basis of that. So
it is long. But I think that's a good point that you make about drinking as well. Going back to it, you know, within your limits, have a drink. I think is what I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not telling you to go and have a drink every time you DJ. If you're listening and you're a DJ, I'm not saying go and drink and make sure you get drunk. I'm saying, if you need a few drinks to get into the vibe, I don't see a problem with that.
I tell you, I think I agree, because, you know, many times I get a lot of anxiety from playing sometimes, and as much as I do this week in, week out, as long as I've been doing this, sometimes I have those days where I'm just...
Yeah, you have like a mind blank.
Yeah, a mind blank, I'm kind of...
I had it on Saturday. I had to... Bro, I was DJing at... There's a fly.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought there was a spider falling on my head. I didn't know what to do. But
I hate bugs. Did you see where it went?
The last time I done a podcast episode or a video recording with Shraii, there was a bug that flew on his face at my house.
It was like a bat. It was literally like a bat. It was like a bird. And we were outside.
And he was on the floor crying. It was horrendous.
It flew in my face whilst I was doing an interview with someone. Oh, it was so bad. Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, last Saturday, I already had a weird vibe because and people won't know this listening from home or whatever. They won't know that there's you can gauge the vibe very early. Like, are they cheering when they walk in? Are they doing 3 cheers really loudly? Are they screaming when they cut? You can get the vibe. These lot are going to be on it later tonight if they've had a few drinks. This Saturday, it was very mixed. It was one of the weirdest vibes because I think the bride and groom had a lot of colleagues, a lot of younger and older family and friends, and it was all very like, this guy's cleaning the windows. See that? It was a very mixed crowd, and that weddings are already really difficult to play at, but when you have that much of a mix and they're not all Asian and you had loads of different cultures there, it's difficult to pin down a certain set that okay, these will bang, these tracks will be sick, this genre will work. I didn't know. I was literally stuck at one stage. I had about 45 minutes to go, and I mentioned, I don't know if it was in this podcast or the last one, I mentioned to the dancers that were performing, I said, what do you think I should play? And they were like, go with Whitney Houston or something like that and see what happens. And I did, and it worked.
Interesting you say that, because sometimes I do the same thing. Sometimes I'll talk to someone that's with me, that's assisting with the lighting, for example, and kind of ask them their opinions, like, oh, what do you think? Like, I would like to kind of get or gauge what people say.
90% of the time we know what we're doing, bang it out, shut it down, go home.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have that little like, oh my God, what do I play? Like,
It can be literally one person that might throw you off with something
and
that
the thing
they
that
want.
gets you past it is alcohol.
Sometimes, because, when you're in a room and people are drinking and people are drunk and you're completely sober, it's harder. It's harder to deal with it.
I always say, I'm not saying keep up with people drink for drink or get as drunk as everyone else, but I'm saying if they're having a few drinks and you are also having a few drinks, you'll be able to get you'll be able to get the vibe of what they would want to hear next. You can kind of
imagine yourself partying again to some capacity, right? Because it's the same when I'm in my zone. I'm more so in the zone when I've had a couple of drinks and I've kind of loosened up to some capacity, and then I can play with a bit more confidence. Because otherwise, when I'm playing or if I'm recording at home, etc., it's a whole different thing. When I'm recording mixes for radios or for me, I would never drink. It's only if I'm in front of people.
Yeah.
Then I kind of feel like, okay, it's kind of like gives me that hidden vibe. And that's the same reason why I don't like lights, because I like it dark. The exact same reason. I think it partly plays on this whole factor.
But that's all of it. If you want a good dance floor at a wedding reception, you have to have the right lighting, dark as possible, essentially. You have to have a lighting technician that's going to put strobes in every now and then or whatever on the big tracks. You have to have the music playing at the right, the song selection, playing certain songs at the right time is key. And you have to have the bride and groom on the dance floor the whole time. You have to have the bar in the room. There's so many different factors that make a good dance in a reception. And if you're missing 2 or 3 of them, it's really tricky for us. Like, say the bar's in the next room. That's like a whole... I hate that. And I'm like, I already go to that wedding thinking this is going to be difficult.
I agree. I think sometimes, sometimes it can be set up to be a little bit more difficult on the basis of that. And I agree with the bar being in another room is a big factor into the party element of things. Now, sometimes it's not always convenient due to the numbers of guests they can expect.
Yeah, and some of the best venues in the country have the bar in another room, and that it still works.
But I found that a lot more so recently. People have actually just acknowledged that they need the bar in the main room, and it's become a feature point. For example, like a circular bar with a tree in the middle, right next to the dance floor, something like that. It's becoming more and more popular, and I can see firsthand that the party atmosphere with a bar in the room, a bar in another room, all of these kind of things now, it works. But it's also based on the families, on the audience, and how it is. Like for me, if I don't feel a right vibe that they are going to be kind of okay or encouraging me to drink. If they don't ask me for a drink or suggest for me to have a drink, I very rarely would actually go out my way to make sure I'm drinking. So it's kind of like naturally with every bride and groom, I don't want to show up at a wedding and make them feel like we're disrespecting them or anything like that. But I think the beauty about what we do as DJs has never been a sort of a scenario I can recall where someone's actually said, oh, wait a minute, you're a DJ. Why are you
Yeah,
drinking?
why are you drinking? Yeah.
It's never. Now, when I ask a photographer, oh, hey guys, how's it going? Do you want a drink? They're a little bit more reluctant at times to be like, they can't be seen
Shooting
to have a
wonky
drink.
pictures.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting because I guess no one really has kind of addressed it in that circumstance. In nightclubs, yeah, of course, that's been addressed. People know DJs will drink. That is what it is. They're not gonna show up in a nightclub and be told I'm not allowed to drink. Very rarely. Although yes, it is a job.
So actually, that's another point. So I actually don't have any alcohol until just before the first dance is about to start. So I'll have Coke, water, whatever it might be, up until, because usually it's first dance then into the party, right? So let's say it goes mains, desserts, first dance, party. During the mains, I'll go and get 2 or 3 gin and tonics. And I'll just leave them on the side, and then once the first dance is done, then I'll have a few drinks.
You know what? I'm actually the exact same.
Yeah,
I don't have a drink until the party started.
Yeah.
Until the actual first dance.
Unless I'm driving.
With, and then started.
If I'm driving, then I'll have 1 or 2 during the starters, and then I'm done. That's it. But 9 times out of 10, we're not driving the vans or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly the same. Totally agree with that. Because I think.
But at the same time, I mean, I can say this from experience because I know everyone that on our team that does drink. They drink sensibly. It's not a case where they show up and they get completely smashed. And to be honest with you, you know, there probably is companies that do that. There is people that do get drunk.
Let's be real, there is.
There is, and it happens. But at the same time, it's not a case where someone has actually addressed this and said, oh, this should be flagged or this should be regulated or anything like that. I hear stories quite frequently about people that have been really, really drunk at a wedding and X,
the
Y, Z
thing is,
happened.
those DJs, they can get away with it because those circles or those types of weddings,
they encourage it.
They don't mind it, and they'll pay you. They'll be like, here's a
bottle.
Have another drink.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, go play more Bhangra or whatever it might be. We're not stereotyping, but it could be any type of wedding where, I've done actually I probably shouldn't say what it is, but I've done a type of wedding where they were literally force feeding you drinks, and it was like, I'm loving it. I'm like, yes, it's dope. Like I can play the type of music I want to play, and they're giving me these drinks, and everyone's encouraging it. But what would you do if so like you might have had well, I certainly have had a bride and groom. They both went to a very prestigious university. One is actually a rocket scientist. I'm not even lying. I actually did both siblings' weddings a year apart, and the other one was some sort of medical doctor or something like that. They're very good professionals, right? And I never got the vibe from them that they're too much into the whole partying, alcohol, drinking vibe. So automatically, and maybe wrongly, I just assumed I shouldn't drink at this wedding. How do you do you ever get that?
I do.
Me?
No, I get that a lot. Likewise, because the thing is this: if you go there and the bride and groom are not,
so rude,
if they're not really drinking, then I feel like I've gone to many weddings, and some of them there's been no alcohol, and it's not affected anything on the basis of the party to some capacity. Some of the parties have been really good, but I'm much a vibesy person. I think if I don't feel like, that the vibe is right, I won't drink.
Yeah, so I think the thing with us is if you book a DJ Rugrat or you book Shraii for your wedding reception, you're essentially getting a nightclub that plays Western and Asian music at your reception. That's what you're getting.
Yeah, I agree.
Simple as that. But you're not gonna get 7 hours of Bhangra. You're not gonna get a Bollywood night. We can if we wanted to, but the main thing is it's gonna be a hip hop night, a Bollywood night, a Bhangra night blended into one. Afro beats, whatever's trending in the clubs, or Asian world as well, in your reception. And that's them down to the club atmosphere with that alcohol and stuff. That's what you're saying, yeah.
Exactly. That's what I think. Naturally, our background or our journey in regards to the wedding world has perhaps been something different because we have come from nightclubs. We have stemmed from that. We kind of played in majority of the club world, and then kind of moved into the wedding world. And naturally, the experiences that we've had on the back end of the club world into the wedding world.
That's so true, because do you know what? When I first started doing weddings, it was the same time I was doing the residency for Milkshake at Ministry, right?
Yeah.
And I was in the main room playing hip hop, which was back then hip hop. Now I don't call it hip hop, but back then it was hip hop to 2,000 kids, which were actually older than me at the time. every Tuesday. So when I went and done a nightclub, the brides and grooms and the guests they were gassed. They were like, we've never heard this in a especially Gujarati wedding. We've never like, can we book you? And I was like, yeah, cool. And that's how it all started for me. I'm sure it's very similar for you.
Exactly so.
They've never heard like migraine skank at a Gujarati wedding. Do you know what I mean?
It's true. I think that again, it comes down to the fact that we come from clubs, and I think a lot of other companies may come from just weddings, and they never necessarily had the same journey as us growing up.
Yeah.
Playing in clubs or playing in the atmosphere where it's been more wedding based, but at the same time, does that affect the amount of alcohol that other people potentially could be drinking on jobs, etc.?
Couldn't be drinking.
Because technically, the reality is, every DJ I know in any field that they're in, majority of them, not to say,
I have seen some disasters.
Would drink.
I've seen some really bad disasters. I've seen some. How can I put it? I've seen some very drunk DJs using or abusing equipment in a nightclub, and I'm just like, what are you doing? And he hasn't got a clue, or she hasn't got a clue.
I've noticed that a lot of the newer DJs that are playing in nightclub, they actually just bring their own controller now.
Bro.
And they put their controller on the CDJs and they use that.
I have been stuck on for this. Like, people have had a go at me. People have stopped talking to me, hate on me because I've said certain things about controllers. I don't mind if you use a controller. I wouldn't use it myself unless it was the only thing in the club. Yeah, if that's the only thing in the shrubs, I'll use it. But if you're using a controller and there's CDJs available, do you not think you're lowering the art of DJing by picking a controller over the CDJs or whatever?
But at the same time, you got to remember that some of the youngsters that might be younger, if they got gifted, for example, a controller, and that's all they know how to use.
The 4500 Pioneer controller. Bam.
Yeah. I mean, I see it a lot. I've seen a lot of DJs, but I've seen a lot of DJs that work quite well with it, and they do really good.
Yeah, there are a lot of good DJs that Limelight. He's always used the same controller. He shells down every club he does. Works well.
Yeah.
But then you see a lot of DJs that I fell in love with DJing for the art of DJing, not for money, for clout, for any of these. Bro, when I first got my show on Asian Network, I never asked about money. I didn't even know I was getting paid. Yeah. When I first got weddings with you guys, I didn't ask about how much. I was just like, cool, I'll go and do it. When I first got my nightclubs, in fact, my first 4 nightclub gigs were charity gigs. I didn't get paid. I was never interested about money, clout, nothing. Obviously, Instagram, all that wasn't even up and running back then. So, like, I just think if you're using a controller, it's because you want a shortcut to learning how to DJ. If you want to learn how to DJ, use your ears first, and then you can mess around with a controller if you really want to make mixes at home or whatever. But you need to, bro, the whole art of DJing is mixing properly without having to use.
But then your argument might not necessarily be about a controller as such. It might be more so about the experience of learning to DJ, about learning how to beat match. Because technically, using a controller, you could still beat match, scratch, etc. Like if you was to use the controller,
you can't put a CD
right?
in. I'm not saying use CDs. That's outdated. I get that. That is gone. But bro, like if there's a sync button on there, unless you're doing a super duper scratch routine where you've got like 4 acapellas and 3 beats and you're doing a madness, why are you using a sync button? And people are like, the argument is it's there to be used, which it is. But then does that then go down to Pioneer? Like, should they be making these controllers?
It's money though, isn't it? It comes down to what they're going to sell.
Why wouldn't they? Is their argument.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
But at the same time, I know good DJs that now use a controller that started off on turntable, for example, but have adapted. Not necessarily mean that they have to use sync.
Maybe I need to adapt to the new age.
I think what it is you do have naturally some people that would just want the shortcut. Like I remember speaking to a lot of DJs that didn't want to come up on a journey. They wanted to be famous now. They wanted to make money now. And I think you've demonstrated the same. Like my journey is kind of, we played for fun, we played for love, and then it kind of just got to where it got to over time and dedication. That's really what it is.
You know,
that's what a controller becomes, shortcuts.
Who did I see? I think it was Rusky or RV or someone, both dope DJs. Both of them, or one of them, I can't remember who it was, put up a post like a couple of years ago, and it was 2 pictures on top of each other. So one was an empty nightclub, and one was a festival with like 100,000 people, and it says, "If you've never done this, don't expect this." And that just summed it up for me. I was like, if you can't, work on this whole grind of working from, you might have a gig where there's 4 people in the club when you're growing up. It makes you a better DJ.
I agree, man.
If you're doing a warm-up set for me, say you're warming up for me, not you, but one is warming up for me, doing 11 till 12, and I'm doing 12 till 2. If you smash your warm-up, I could potentially book you somewhere else, or bring you into musical movements, or whatever it might be. But that warm-up set is actually more difficult than my set. I'm just doing 2 hours of all the bangers. You're doing a warm-up set to get the vibe going. If you can't do that properly, I'm not rating you.
It's true, like you said, like you touched on, is like when you're DJing and you're actually not playing in front of many people, it's harder. Playing in front of hundreds or thousands, whatever it may be, is actually the easiest thing to do.
Well, I think weddings are harder than clubs.
Yeah, I do, because they're all different ranges and such. But I think that's the thing that with experience, I think we kind of, naturally with everything, you find a scenario that works, you find a routine to some capacity that kind of works, tweak it per bride and groom, and then it kind of moves in that direction.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think ultimately what it does come down to though is still, my phone is ringing. Sorry, my phone has been non-stop today. Nevertheless,
the phone's always going off.
Yeah, I mean, the experiences that I learned in an empty venue, nightclub, or being kind of unprepared, I would say, has made me the DJ I am today. Because without those experiences, I would not be in a position I think where I am now.
Do you know what? That's another thing, yeah. And I know we're short of time now, but like when something goes wrong, like on Serato, you might get a bit of a red line or sounds coming out a bit funky off one channel, whatever. We've experienced all these issues, and within a second or two, if you're at a wedding reception or a nightclub and something goes wrong with the equipment, I guarantee you and I would be able to tell exactly what's wrong with it in first 5 seconds. We'd be like, oh, that's the phone lead. Oh, that's the USB lead. Oh, that's the Serato box, or the timecode CDs scratch. You could tell because from experience, right? These new DJs, they come with a controller, fine, do what you want to do. And then I'm like, have you got?
Yeah, you're right. You know what?
Have you got a phono lead to like connect to the?
Mix?
And
they don't know how to set up.
They're like, no, bro. I done a club in Camden, very well known club. Yeah, this was for a brunch, and the person who was on after me had a controller. Now she's really cool, good friend of mine. I won't name her, but So I'm holding her controller. The song's playing, there's people dancing. I'm holding the controller. And she goes, what now? I say, I don't know. I don't do controllers. Like, well, do what you need to do in it and start playing. And she's like, okay, cool. Shall we take the main power out of the mixer and put it into mine? I was like, you're going to get 5-10 seconds of silence. Like, I don't think that's a good idea. I was like, just give me one of your phono leads, the red and white one. Put it into your master out. I'll use it as a master into the mixer. Go from there. So you'll have phone leads. And that got me thinking. I was like, these new DJs have no idea.
A lot of the kind of clubs, when they book multiple DJs and multiple DJs are showing up and they're a lot younger, and they go to a nightclub and the nightclub's got CDJs, for example, but every DJ's got their own preferences now because there's so much. Back in the day, there's only one set you can use. You can only use CDJs and mixers.
I remember we've switched between each other so many times, like trying to go from one guy's laptop to another. Do you remember back in the day without the SL4, the SL3, SL2, SL1?
On one single USB.
Yeah. You were literally like playing one side and then you're just putting a CD into this one.
Trying to get the mic man to say something. Hype the crowd up before the switchover.
They'll never know this from. But then look, fair enough, they're doing their thing, and there is, to be fair, a lot of good young DJs.
Do you think it's easier to drink and DJ on a controller? Or on CDJs?
Sync button, bro. No, look, there is, obviously we've said what we had to say, but there's a lot of good young DJs out there. I keep hitting the table and Sean's not happy. There's a lot of good young DJs that we're one of our own, DJ Barai's awesome DJ, controller. Do you use controller?
Currently, but he learned on turntables.
Oh,
so
okay,
he use CDJs with you.
He can. Oh yes, so he has, yeah.
He actually could use that.
Well look, a bit of advice for any DJ, unless, like we named a couple that shut it down with a controller. I would suggest everyone does get familiar with CDJs, because you never know, you might be at a club where your controller might go bust and there's CDJs there.
I agree. I think, knowing if you're a DJ and you do this full time and this is your profession and this is what you make money from, it's important to understand, like, especially if you're playing in another venue, what the equipment that they have and who's playing before you, who's playing after you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know that, the transitions are difficult. Now, I know, like you mentioned, many times I've DJed with other people, they simply don't know what to do after. And it's not my nature to just leave them there. I'll set them up, transfer them, make sure that they're okay and move. But I can't imagine it being much easier.
I always do that. And I even show them, if they ask, I'll be like, they're like, oh, have you played that? I'm like, look, here's my history. Just scroll through it as you want. That's what I played today.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think that's enough ranting.
No, I think Shraii needs another drink at the moment. So that is that's the end of episode 2. And I think it's I think it's interesting to touch on the points on regard to DJs drinking, etc. And as I was saying, we're not saying we're encouraging anything in specific. This is just our opinion. This is just our insight.
Yes, thank you for listening and tuning in, whatever, watching. Subscribe, share with your mates. What do we say? Pass the pod, as they all say in all these fancy podcasts.
I actually don't watch many podcasts as of yet, so it's something I'm probably going to do. So actually, if there's any good podcasts that anyone would recommend, please post some comments. It's always good. And if anyone's got any feedback or anything along those lines, if anything in particular you like us to cover, please comment and let us know.
I don't hate controllers that much, just a little bit.
D-Lo hater.
Peace.